Good morning, welcome to Morning Outlook. This is Kim speaking on Tuesday the 14th of November. Looking at Eurodollar first, and well, we're pretty close to running into the monthly pivot. I was looking for this yesterday as a target area, but it just never happened. Yesterday we just had consolidation. We've had more movement in the last 3 hours 45 minutes than we had in the whole of yesterday. Now it's pushing up quite strongly at the moment, running towards the magnet. It's the reaction to the monthly pivot. I'll be watching. If it continues to break through, there's the chance it will run up towards that 200 there as a sort of next target. Coincides somewhere near the 34 on the dailies. It's once done, it'll be the daily R2. I mean, around this area, I will watch carefully. It's to say it's done one of the biggest bars here it has done for, well, certainly bigger than yesterday's range, almost in this current bar, and as big as we've seen for a number of days. So watch the reaction just in case it's just going to it's just popping and dropping. It may be just chasing this target here and rolling over, so be watching that carefully this morning. Obviously with high lows, high highs before the upside, but just got to be aware that there is a daily and weekly pivot below, and there is a potential reversal into this monthly pivot anyway. Okay, that's the euro. So come back to look at the pound. Now the pound yesterday got kicked from the weekend news of the 40 MPs who were looking to get a vote of no confidence for Prime Minister May. Well, that didn't come to anything, and we're now sort of sitting. We finally got a bit of a relief rally later in the morning into the running through to the afternoon, but that now looks like we've seen a fold over again. Now there's just so much turbulence in the UK politics at the moment that it's not helping the pound whatsoever. However, the pound is holding up pretty good, bearing in mind all of that, because it is sitting in a relatively tight range, and it has for the last all of this month basically sat in that same old range, and it is quite range bound. Fundamentally, things aren't probably, despite or in spite of the politics, etc. It's holding up relatively well at the moment. There is the chance it could roll, for sure, but at the moment I would just be looking to see if this continues back towards, well, maybe the lows of yesterday, maybe as down as far as his S1, but it is looking weak at the moment, and at the moment I'll be looking for selling into any retracement. Dollar yen, and I should just put a caveat there, within that range that we saw up down to yesterday on the pound. So dollar yen, sorry, I've gone into weekly here. Bouncing off its monthly pivot at the moment. It too took a long time. I was wondering at one stage where it broke that monthly pivot yesterday. We were in a short and just held on, and it just didn't break it in the end. It's looking at the moment like it's pushing back up there for the weekly, which wasn't touched yesterday. I will be watching this. It's been range bound for quite some time here, running into the last third of last week. If it can start breaking out, if it gets above that 4 hourly 50, for example, above the weekly pivot, then it's got, to me, it's becoming a bit more bullish. But it's been a tough old battle there with the yen at the moment. Likewise, I should say, if it does react to the 50, the weekly pivot, starts rolling over, breaks this current low of this bar here, I'd be much more interested to see if we can play it back down to, even if it's just into range, and we trade the range back down to the previous lows. Australian dollar. Now, it's been struggling along in a range. Yesterday it finally broke the lows of that range, and we've run lower so far, but it's doesn't like it down there. It's pushing back up at the moment. It's, well, struggling into this 4 hourly 8. It has tested it in the previous bar, still sitting around at the moment. Really, it just happens to be a daily pivot sitting around there. If it starts failing this morning, well, there may be a chance, and when I say failing, really, even just starting breaking below the lows of the current bar, it may be looking to run back towards yesterday's lows down here, maybe in towards its S1. It more than did its S1 yesterday. It does look weak on this time frame, this intermediate time frame, lower highs, lower lows. It has had a little bit of divergence at the bottom here on this hourly chart, and well, has it worked it off? Basically, yes, and it just can't seem to get at the moment across and above that daily pivot. If it does, well, it could be a bit more bullish, but even then, there may be opportunities to sell into the 34 or 50. Overall, weak. CAD, finally. From a daily perspective, now we did see, I've drawn the trend line on here on Friday, actually. I probably mentioned it briefly yesterday, but it seems to be bouncing off that trend line and back in towards the regression channel there. So as it starts moving, if it can push up above the monthly pivot, let's just come to a cleaner chart here marginally. If it can get back above that monthly pivot, well, it becomes a bit more bullish for the upside, and as I said, getting back into that regression area on the dailies that I had there. Short term, it has on this intermediate term, or even it has run into the 200, having a reaction at the moment. There is the potential for it to run back towards the daily pivot, where it may be a buy point. So I'd watch that carefully if it gets back down there. There's the potential for it just to miss and break this 200, in which case I'd possibly be looking for the long opportunities if they appear. Okay, that's it for me. News-wise today, we've got the UK inflation data out at 9:30. We've got the ECB President Draghi speaking at 10 o'clock. That's a panel discussion at the heart of a policy. There we go. So that's at 10 o'clock. We do have an FOMC speaker at 8:05 actually, which I missed there, who's at the conference hosted by the European Central Bank, and he's discussing whether we should be looking at Odyssean or Delphic guidance. There you go. There's one for those that really can't sleep at night to have a read about tonight, maybe. So we may get a bit of volatility around that time. I don't expect massive volatility, bearing in mind the conversation they're having. We do have Carney, though, speaking at that same meeting, as is the Bank of Japan governor, and the Fed Chair Yellen speaking, I believe, at the same, all speaking at the same meeting there. So 10 o'clock, from 10 o'clock. So they're on a panel discussion, so there could be some volatility kicking around that time, but it may be relatively modest, he says. Okay, and then finally we got the PPI out at 1:30 this afternoon, so watch out around about 10 o'clock for the panel discussion. There is some flash GDP in the European region around that time as well, and German economic sentiment, not normally massive movers, but we'll see. And it would most likely just all get mixed up, and that with any speeches coming out and panel discussion. Right, that's it for me. Have a great one. Bye for now.